All right, 7 o'clock on the dot. Going to call the East Lyme Inland Wetlands Agency regular meeting of Tuesday, December 6, 2022 to order. We are going to start with the Pledge of Allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, so I see we do have an open seat. I know, Diane, we had you last time, so Nancy, you want to come join us tonight? And I'll introduce, we have Phyllis Berger, Doreen Ryan, I'm Kristen Chantrell, Don Fimminster, Greg McIntyre, we have Sam, I'm sorry, what's your last name? Gary, sitting in with us tonight for Gary, and Sue Spang, our recording secretary. So I'm going to start with public delegations. Public delegations is the time when members of the public are invited to speak to the commission about certain matters. Issues or concerns related to approved wetland permits and in-house proposals or general topics of discussion are open to comment. Agenda items, referrals, applications subject to a decision by the commission, a public hearing, or in litigation may not be discussed. The members of the commission will not directly answer questions or make comment during delegations. Do I have anyone say that would like to speak? And I apologize, I should introduce, we have Ann Chicallo here from Board of Selectmen, and we have Diane Gardner as an alternate. All right, so moving on, we have no public hearings. Next would be the acceptance of minutes. Do I hear a motion to accept the minutes of the November 1st, 2022 regular meeting?
Make a motion to accept the minutes for the November 1st meeting.
Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
And just one editorial change, please. Diane's name is spelled incorrectly.
Last name is not D-O-G-A-R.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, say that. G-A-R-N-E-O.
All right, so with that one minor change, so all those in favor of approving the minutes from November 1st, 2022?
Aye.
Everybody? Okay. So moving right to the ex officio report. Ann?
Hi, Ann Chicallo, ex officio from the Board of Selectmen. Let's see. The Dominion building on Main Street, the first selectman had put off a final decision as to whether or not to purchase the property. And at this point, Niantic Main Street has approached the board and asked if they could hold off on any decision until they have the charrette study. They also approached Dominion and they've agreed to that. So before they have any final decisions, they're going to wait for the charrette study. The Board of Education reported in they are at this point about $700,000 over budget. I guess basically partly due to health insurance. A lot of people were individuals in our families and just some other issues, I guess, with utilities and things like that, and having to hire people. SCORE, which is the Southeastern Connecticut Organization for Racial Equality, they came and spoke to the Board of Selectmen, presented, and basically we decided to basically they want to keep the discussion and lines of communication open. So we're going to be going forward with that. Niantic Light Parade is this coming Saturday at 6 p.m. for everybody, and there's a Jingle Bell 5K run, which is also this Saturday, and that's at 8:45. That's really about it. Does anybody have any questions?
Yeah, what was the study you mentioned?
It's the charrette study. So they're studying how best to basically utilize the area in downtown and how to improve it.
Is that by Niantic Main Street, or is that by?
Yeah, Niantic Main Street is doing it.
Okay.
Yeah, exactly.
Is there any environmental issue there? Is it, is there
well, that's
chemical dump of some kind, or?
At Dominion, well, that's the issue. So I think they're going to see what the charrette study says. I don't know. There's an issue as to, and this is where they kind of have to talk to council, as to who's responsible if they sell the property, who's responsible if there's some issue later on with the
Sure.
property.
Sure.
So that's kind of what's, being discussed. But I think they're trying to figure out if there's anything else they can actually do with the building. So,
So is the budget committee, I assume, is their attitude towards the school board to kind of shrug and say, we'll cover it, or is it, find a way to fix it?
so at this point, the Board of Ed has now basically frozen all new purchases, frozen the spending, and they're trying to figure out how to bring that debt down. That's kind of where it stands right now.
We got grass on the ball field.
Because it just, the budget year just started in, July 1st. So, it's a big, large amount of money.
Thank you.
Sure. Any other questions? No. Okay. Thank you.
Thanks, Sam.
Thank you.
All right, so under a new business, we have an application of Niantic Soapy Noble LLC, applicant owner for a 3,425 square foot car wash facility with associated drive aisles, parking, vacuum spaces, drive-up lanes, stormwater measures, and utility infrastructure at 230 Flanders Road, East Lyme Assessors Map 26.1, Lot 27. So this application in particular, we're determining if we need to have it go to public hearing. My suggestion, since it says that there is a direct impact to watercourse and wetlands in the application, that we make a motion to have this go to public hearing.
Can I ask a question
Yeah.
before we do that? What public waterway is it impact? Is this the one that's on the corner? It's going to replace the one that's there now?
Correct.
And that's within 100 yards of the Patagonia River in the back?
Yes, the application actually, I have a copy of it. There is direct impact to it's in here somewhere. This is a very thorough, well-done application. Where is it? Hang on, let me look. I was looking at it earlier.
I'll take your word for it. If it's actually...
Yeah, so they're expanding the back to put in like the vacuum things, it looks like. So
Oh,
they're
okay.
expanding back, and there's that little river there, that little bridge.
Yeah.
Yeah, so there is an impact to wetlands or watercourse. Yeah, yeah,
It goes into the water. Okay.
right. And and public interest, I imagine, as well. So I think it would warrant having a public hearing for this application.
Okay with me.
Okay, someone want to make that motion?
Sure, I'll make the motion that we have a public hearing for the property listed as, let's see, Niantic Soapy Noble LLC, 230 Flanders Road, East Lyme.
Do I hear a second?
A second.
All those in favor? Aye. All right, so we'll schedule that probably during our next scheduled meeting. We'll have that as a public hearing, I imagine.
Can I just make a point, because we've had this in the past, the signage?
The signage.
Is
Yeah.
there someone here that's representing the company?
No.
Yeah.
Could you relate to Gary that, just to double check that there's a sign posted, that there will be a sign posted, that there's maybe a public hearing for that property? Thank you.
Can you have that in the minutes, that we did speak about that, even though we're not here?
All right, so moving on to pending applications. We have the application of Jack Belowich, Atlantis Management Group, applicant owner for the redevelopment of 190, 196, and 202 Flanders Road to include a new 4,200 square foot convenience store and related appurtenances, East Lyme Assessors Map 26.3, lots 14, 15, and 16. So the public hearing has been closed for this. So it's just now that we've had time to digest the application, our discussion amongst ourselves and determination on this application. So for everybody, there is some draft language that Gary wrote up today. Everyone should have a copy of it. If we want to read through this quickly, well, not quickly, take your time, read through it, look at the conditions, and determine if there's anything in here that you would like to change or modify or add. So I'll give everybody a little bit of time since there's a lot of words here to look through. Does anyone want to discuss before we do read this? No? Okay.
This is gonna have to go to zoning or planning
Yeah, it will have to go to
Because
zoning
of-
and planning.
because of the aquifer, potential aquifer impact.
Yeah. Yep.
Last month, I think I asked about the underground storage tanks. On the second page, it says, whereas the existing fueling facility, canopy, pump islands, and underground storage tanks will remain. When I asked about that last month, I'm fairly certain the applicant said that the tanks were going to be replaced.
And Greg, that's what we were talking about right
Yeah.
before the meeting. They're replacing them next month.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So should this be changed to reflect that, or do you just want to leave it the way it is?
It's a different project.
Well, yeah, maybe we say the existing fueling facility, canopy, pump islands, and location of the underground storage tanks will remain? I mean, because I can see the confusion that the underground storage tanks will
I
remain.
like that language. They're just replacing them. They're just gonna drop new ones in where the old ones were.
Right. So but it's not the tanks that will remain, it's the location, right? So if we just add that,
Oh,
Right.
okay, underground location of the tanks,
yeah,
of the new tanks, or just tanks?
just tanks.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know what the life is on those, but we don't want them to, 10 years from now,
I'm sure.
do new things, right?
Yeah.
So if it's specified that what's there.
There was a little concern about that culvert impact because of the neighborhood having that runoff.
That's exactly what
That's what I was looking at this last thing that says mitigation measures minimize potential impacts from creation of this, so that relates into that. That's on page 2.
Yeah.
Actually, no.
Yeah, because it says too, there are no anticipated impacts nor any changes to the natural channel,
Right,
but
right,
there's
right. And it was made, I mean, but still, it's what's in place.
Right, I'm not sure if we want to add words to make sure that that's more clear.
Because they were very concerned.
Right.
I don't want to mess
And
them
I
up.
agree.
They came here to ask for help. so
Right, and I think that it's important to
Yeah.
just
Put that in there.
put that in here.
Mm-hmm.
Am I, like, am I reading this right? The last paragraph? It's like, application for construction of 120 residential units, and this is too.
Yeah, no, so Gary pulled some of this from the gateway.
Okay.
So that last paragraph on
That was
page
this big
4 is
for
not
mistake.
applicable to this.
Okay, so
You're
it's
not-
like,
yeah.
wait a
No.
minute.
Where are you?
There's that.
It's just the
Page
last,
4.
this,
Oh, this whole thing?
that whole paragraph.
No.
Good catch.
Like 286 Flanders Road is
Yeah,
not
it's
the
like,
right
what?
address.
Can I ask you a question?
Mhm.
So under number 4, on page 4, it says forested covered within the upland view area shall be maintained to the extent practicable.
Mhm.
That doesn't say squat. That just says somebody can take a backhoe and oops, there it goes. There goes all our forested cover. Is there any way to tighten that up a little?
They did have lines, didn't they?
They
had-
did.
in their plans,
They
some
had-
kind of lines and stuff.
Yeah, on the map there was
Because we asked.
an
actually,
area of
Phyllis was
clearing.
very concerned.
I mean, it
The area
says,
of
the
clearing
next
was
sentence
defined.
says the proposed limits of
You want-
disturbance shall be
Okay.
strictly
Okay,
adhered
so
to.
Yeah,
that's covered then, good.
yeah, yeah.
Okay.
So I don't know if you could provide some advice on this. We were discussing the neighborhood across the street has a pipe that flows from their property that drains and it goes along the side of this property, which the developers assured us they're not going to touch. And it says on the last page 2, it just says, as such, the project will not adversely impact the ability of the wetland to supply water or convey natural drainage patterns. I mean, it kind of, there's no anticipated impacts to flood flow, nor any changes to the natural channel. So I'm not sure if it's,
And they are going to change the channel. They're making it better. That was the whole point of this. They even said we're going to make it better than it was.
right, nor will the project inhibit the natural dynamics of the existing water course system. I don't know that, I don't see words in here that are specific to like not touching that pipe as a as a
Never
condition.
saw that.
Like, yeah. The more pumps maintenance, the if we needed that, I don't know.
Yeah, I thought he mentioned that we could add some words just to make sure that, because then that neighborhood was very concerned about
Yep.
that pipe being untouched, and they assured us they would not touch it. But
Yeah, that's not in here somewhere. It needs to be.
yeah, I don't really see it clearly.
Nancy was seated last, or, I'm sorry, she was seated last time for this particular hearing, and,
Oh yes,
Yeah.
good point.
there might be an issue if somebody wasn't seated and has not written the minutes for those videos, that is what people do.
Okay. Yeah, so Nancy, would you mind, just for this determination, we're going to have you switch with Diane because she
Sure.
was seated, and then we'll switch back.
Sure, that's fine.
Thank you. All right. Yes, good point.
Can we just add the thing about the pipe as one of these bullet points?
Yeah, I think that would be.
There you go.
I don't know what it was like. They specifically called it. I don't know.
Well, could you just, could we, I mean, you could call it a drainage pipe from the Clark Lane development.
There you go. I can remember the name of it.
I
Yeah.
saw it
Or
referred
Clark's
to
Lane.
as the state drainage pipe because the state put it in under the road. But I thought I saw that in here somewhere. That's why I'm confused. So I don't.
Did it? It was the second page at the bottom. They were referring it, but they didn't really mention it. Page 2.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's called drainage pipe.
No, this point, I would put a sticky on it and say, Gary, please think about adding a statement preserving the
Maintain.
workability of the existing state drainage pipe under 161 there. But I know it's in the minutes, we talked about it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep. It's like, when people came down.
Yeah, no modifications will be made to the existing drainage pipeline.
From Clark
From the Clark's Lane.
Lane's neighborhood.
It's,
We're gonna make it bullet
yeah,
12.
we're making number, on page 4.
That's great.
We'll add a bullet 12.
Yeah, number 12.
Yeah, that should be fine.
No modifications will be made to the existing drainage pipeline from Clark Lane neighborhood. And then you saw below that last paragraph has to just completely be
Deleted.
deleted.
Does it have to be deleted or just changed to the correct address and project?
Oh.
Yeah, I would, yeah.
Because I think that's usually the language, but I think we just would have to plug in.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yep.
Just change that language
Yep.
to the proper project and the address and everything.
Yes.
Okay. Because I think that's usually boilerplate language that goes on stuff.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. Does anyone else?
Where it is in the, on the agenda. Described.
So,
I'm sorry, what?
However that project is described.
Oh, yes, on the agenda, yep, yep.
so should we start from page 1 and go through this so Sue knows what the corrections are? And how do you vote on it if they're not?
Well, that's my question. So if we, are we agreeing to the changes? Can we vote on this tonight with the changes as made? To those last paragraphs?
Yeah, I believe so.
So technically this needs to be read into the record, so we can read it in with the changes as we feel fit.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Fine. Thank you.
Yeah.
That'd be great.
Yeah. I have some copy. Good deal. We start from the beginning.
We gotta start from the top.
Start from the top.
I think you can just skip the first paragraph.
Right on. Okay. So this is a memorandum from the town of East Lyme. Upon review of the above referenced application, the plans entitled Land Development Plans for Proposed Retail Store 190, 196, and 202 Flanders Road, East Lyme, Connecticut, dated July 22nd, 2022, revised through October 31st, 2022, scale 1 inch to 30 feet, prepared by Christopher D. Gagnon, P.E. of BL Companies, 355 Research Way, Meriden, Connecticut, for Atlantis Management Group, 55 South Columbus Avenue, Suite 201, Mount Vernon, New York, 10550. I offer the following findings in motion. Findings. The East Lyme Inland Wetlands Agency in quotes, based on the record before with its respect to this application, finds this application to be in conformance with the inland wetlands regulations in the town of East Lyme, and more specifically based on the following findings. Whereas the agency has received an inland wetlands application from Jack Belowich, Atlantis Management Group application owner, and plans entitled Land Development Plan for Proposed Retail Store 190, 196, and 202 Flanders Road, East Lyme, Connecticut, dated July 22nd, 2022, revised to October 31st, 2022, scale 1 inch to 30 feet, prepared by Christopher D. Gagnon, P.E. of BL Companies, 355 Research Parkway of Meriden, Connecticut, for Atlantis Management Group, 55 South Columbus Avenue, Suite 201, Mount Vernon, New York, 10550. Whereas the agency received this application on September 6, 2022, and commenced a public hearing and received the testimony on October 4th of 2022, continued to the public hearing to November 1st of 2022, and closed the public hearing for a said application on the Commission's November 1st, 2022 meeting. Whereas the agency has reviewed the application, received testimony from the applicant, the town's expert consultant, and town staff provided the agency with a comment concerning this application's compliance with the local requirements and regulations. Whereas the application submitted includes all the information required pursuant to Section 7.5 of the East Lyme Inland Wetlands Agency's watercourses, regulations, and sites, includes site plans, engineering reports, wetlands delineation by soil scientists depicted on site plans, a description of ecological communities and functions of wetlands watercourses, a description of how the applicant will change, diminish, or enhance the ecological communities and function of the wetlands and watercourse of each alternative, and management practices of other measures designed to mitigate the impact of proposed activity pursuant to Section 7.6 of East Lyme Inland Wetlands Regulations. As such, the application submitted in accordance with Section 7.1 of East Lyme Inland Wetlands Regulations is complete. Whereas the project proposes to demolish an existing retail building located at 202 Flanders Road, construct a 4,200 square foot convenience store associated with parking spaces, sidewalks, dumpster enclosures, utilities, site lighting, and landscaping. Whereas the existing fueling facility, canopy, pump islands, and added into location underground storage tanks will remain. Whereas regulated activities include construction of a rigid frame construction crossing, as well as a work within a proportion of the 100-foot upland review area, which includes the construction and use of retaining walls. Whereas the proposed project will result in a disturbance of approximately 40,770 square feet within a 300-foot upland review area from the wetlands and watercourses. Whereas the project proposes the use of erosion controls that have been designed in accordance with the CT D 2002, Connecticut Guidelines for the Soil Erosion and Sedimentation Control Handbook, including but not limited to the perimeter silt fence, inlet protection, anti-tracking pad, and outlet protection. Whereas mitigation measures to minimize and mitigate the potential impacts from the creation of new impervious surface on the site and to protect the wetlands and watercourses, stormwater management structures are being proposed which will pre-treat, control runoff, promote groundwater recharge, and reduce thermal pollution. All good things. Whereas there is no anticipated impacts to flood flow, nor are there any changes to the natural channel, nor to the project inhibit the natural dynamics of the existing watercourse system. As such, the project will not adversely impact the ability of the wetland to supply water or convey natural drainage patterns. Whereas the project will not impact the ability of the wetland to assimilate waste beyond the pre-project levels. And whereas the project will not impede the capacity of the wetland to improve recreation nor open space values. Whereas the section of 10.6 of the East Lyme Inland Wetlands Regulation states that the agency shall not deny or condition an application for the regulated activity in an area outside wetlands or watercourses based on an impact or effect of an aquatic, plant, or animal life unless such an activity will likely impact or affect the physical characteristics of such wetlands or watercourse. Whereas erosion and sedimentation controls will be established along limits disturbance to prevent sediment from entering the wetland beyond the established limits of disturbance. Whereas evidence of exhibits H and R, email correspondence from Eric Close, PE town engineer, and the project is not anticipated to cause any substantial diminution of flow of groundwater levels or wetland or result in the potential or cause pollution of a wetland or watercourse in the use of the upland area is a benefit to the overall water quality. Whereas the project does not propose any activities which will damage or destroy any unique wetlands or such areas which will demonstrable scientific or educational value. Whereas there are no other prudent or feasible alternatives that will eliminate or further reduce potential wetland impacts in the proposed activity of the limited duration. It is preferred alternative as evidenced in the Exhibit B project narrative prepared by BL Companies dated July 22, 2022. The proposed motion. Based on the findings in a memorandum from Gary A. Gaishel II, Director of Planning, Inland Wetlands Agent to the East Lyme Inland Wetlands Agency dated December 2, 2022, I hereby move to approve the application known as the application of Jack Belowich, Atlantis Management Group applicant owner for the redevelopment of 190, 196, and 202 Flanders Road to include a 4,200 square foot convenience store and related appurtenances, East Lyme's Assessor's Map number 26.3, lots number 14, 15, and 16, and plans entitled Land Development plans for proposed retail store 190, 196, and 202 Flanders Road, East Lyme, Connecticut. Dated July 22nd, 2022, revised through October 31st, 2022, of a scale 1 inch to 3 to 30 feet, prepared by Christopher D. Gagnon, P.E. of BL Companies, 355 Research Way, Meriden, Connecticut, for Atlantis Management Group, 55 South Columbus Avenue, Suite 201, Mount Vernon, New York, 10550, which is further subject to the following administrative requirements and required modifications to the site plan and other materials submitted in support of the application. Number 1. Erosion and sedimentation controls shall be installed prior to any demolition, earthwork, or construction. Number 2, notify conservation officer at least 2 days prior to construction to inspect erosion controls. Number 3, in areas proposed to be loamed, seeded, and low-maintenance lawns such as fescue, which requires minimal application of fertilizers, pesticides, shall be planted. Number 4, forested cover within the upland review areas will be maintained to the extent practicable. The proposed LOD shall be strictly adhered to through all the phases of construction. Number 5, as the site is located within and adjacent to an aquifer protection area, the use of calcium chloride for dust control shall not be used. Number 6, an erosion and sedimentation control bond in the form of a satisfactory to the town of East Lyme and in the amount acceptable to the Inland Wetlands Agency and its agent, its town engineer, shall be posted in the town East Lyme prior to the start of any work. Number 7, any proposed additional work beyond this permit in the wetlands or watercourse or its 300-foot regulated area will require approval from Wetlands Agency or its certified agent. Number 8, any changes to the site plan listed in this permit require notification to the Inland Wetland agent may require agency approval. Any new plan incorporating any said changes will be given to the agent before any work begins. Number 9, inland wetlands tags provided by the Wetlands Agency available in the Land Use Office, Department of Planning, and Inland Wetlands shall be proposed along the inland wetlands boundary, ideally at a 40 to 50-foot intervals, satisfactory to the Inland Wetlands agent. Number 10, no site work shall commence until all applicable conditions are satisfied. Number 11, notify Inland Wetlands agent upon completion of all regulated activities for final inspection of sign-off. Number 12, which we added on, no modifications will be made to the existing drainage pipeline from the Clark Lane neighborhood.
Here's this.
Okay.
This is the
Application of Jack Belowitz.
Wait, so-
Okay. This approval is specific to the site development plan submitted in the application of Jack Belowitz, Atlantis Management Group, applicant owner for the retail zone of 190, 196, 202 Flanders Road to include a 4,200 square foot convenience store and related appurtenances, East Lyme's Assessor's Map 20.6, lots 14, 15.
26.3.
26.3, thank you. Lots 14, 15, and 16. Any modifications, approval, and any of those identified herein shall constitute a new application unless the prior approval from the agency or its agent is granted. The applicant owner shall be bound by the provisions of the application and approval. Amen.
Thank you, Don.
That is it.
All right.
Just one thing I don't
Yes,
know. Number 4.
Yes.
It says though instead of through. It's just a minor typo,
Okay.
but
Number 4, forest and overland shall be maintained to the extent possible. Proposed LOD shall be strictly adhered
throughout all phases.
throughout all phases. What did it say?
No, it's not you. It's
spelling
written.
error.
It's a
Oh,
typo.
Sorry.
It says
I
though
just read.
instead of through. It should be throughout all phases of construction.
Let's add that to your thing. Throughout.
All right. So if everyone is happy with the approval letter with the conditions as edited, I hear a motion to approve the application.
I move we approve the application,
Second.
as read by Don.
Great job.
Thank you.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Don, second, did you say?
Yeah.
I didn't hear the second.
Don seconded. Yep. All right. So moving on from there.
So, I mean, so the motion was actually read by Don already, right? So.
Do you want me to second the motion then?
Yeah, and you're not gonna reread the motion, or you're just gonna say as approved, as read by Don?
Okay.
Yeah, as approved as read by Don. We can change the second
Yes.
to Diane.
Or should it be Don that's making the motion? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, typically.
Oh,
you
oh,
would-
sorry.
you know
I read
what I'm
it.
saying? You typically
Yeah,
would edit
yeah.
that, and then somebody would make that
So-
motion, but he read the motion, so
Right.
I.
Okay, so
I wasn't
he's
sure if I
making
should
the
take that
motion.
as him making the motion,
I
but if somebody
see.
else is gonna be doing the motion, then maybe you should make the motion.
I see.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, that makes sense. So, yeah, he'll make the initial
Sorry.
motion and then Greg will second. No, this is the stuff that I just
Yeah,
get.
so Don's gonna make, he made that motion.
He made that
read
motion.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay. Make the
and then we'll have
motion.
Greg second as the second for that.
Okay.
All in favor? Yes.
Sounds good. Sorry about that.
No, I appreciate it. That's the stuff
Point of
that
order, man.
I get lost on. All right, so moving on to old business. We have a request for determination of permitting non-regulated activity by Kristen T. Clark, PE, applicant East Lyme Land Trust, Inc., owner for property at Scott Road, East Lyme Assessors Map 35.0/23 for a potential residential subdivision. We'll be discussing this in a moment. So this was tabled from last meeting, if you guys recall. Do you want to come speak, please?
Excuse me. Tom, excuse me. Should we replace our alternate at this point?
Sure, yeah, if you don't mind. Yeah, we're going to just have Nancy come up and Diane, trying to keep things
Sorry,
fair up here.
just trying.
And if you can just introduce yourself and, yep. Yeah, we can peek around at that if needed.
Okay.
I know it's been online as well. If you guys have been able to check it out.
For the record, my name is Ron Lewich. I live in East Lyme. I am a resident at 13 Enid Lane. For the past 5 years, I've been president of the East Lyme Land Trust. And today we're going to be discussing in detail the application for determination of permitted and non-regulated activity. By way of explanation, we are currently engaged in the subdivision of the 6.7 acre parcel of land that is part of a 123 or so acre property acquired by the East Lyme Land Trust in late September. Ordinarily, we would have just split the parcel off, the remaining land, with a so-called conservation cut, but in this case, we are unable to do so given the pending deep open space grant application, which we recently filed for, as well as certain provisions of our acquisition loan and that prohibit encumbering any of the property acquired with a conservation easement prior to DEEP's funding of the grant awards, which were previously obtained in 2001, and we expect an additional grant from DEP in 2022. This subdivision is a requirement of our loan agreement. We are obligated under our loan agreement to transfer this property to Mr. Harney's company upon completion of subdivision process, as the property was never intended to be acquired by the land trust and was only done so to facilitate the transfer of the remaining property to the East Lyme Land Trust. As you are aware, the East Lyme subdivision regulations and the Connecticut law require a parcel of land subject to a subdivision application on which there are inland wetlands or watercourses must have their plans reviewed by this agency. In the case of this currently 123 acre property, there are inland wetlands and watercourses, which are primarily the Baghansett River and the Baghansett Lake, neither of which is anywhere near the 6.7 acres parcel, which is the subject application for this review. As is evidenced by the plan submitted, the closest inland wetland to any portion of the 6.7 acre property is 670 plus feet, and that is from the rear property line. An aerial photograph attached to our application shows the location of the nearest wetlands, which is in an area off of Pepperidge Lane and the Upper Bangasset Road, but in any event, nowhere near where the activity will be occurring on the 6.7 acre parcel. The parcel land has been inspected by soil scientist Richard Starsky, who confirmed to our attorney that no wetlands exist on the portion of the property subject to your review this evening. Mr. Starsky's report provided by email to our attorney, Mr. Garrity, reads as follows, and I quote, "John did not ask for a report. There are no wetlands on the property," end of quote. I would note that the record that John is SP Maureen, our surveyor. I would like to submit the email and invoice Mr. Starsky's work for the record as this matter. Should you have any questions about the survey provided, I have brought with me, kicking and screaming, and persuasion, Mr. Jeff Torrance, who has volunteered his time to coordinate this survey at my request of him. Mr. Torrance has been a major benefactor by volunteering his time to the Land Trust. He is not a member of the Land Trust, but he volunteers his time to the Land Trust. We need someone with Mr. Torrance's knowledge to ensure compliance with the rather rigorous, deep open space grant program survey requirements. To be absolutely clear, Mr. Torrance is not here to advocate or against the pending application. He can, however, I believe, provide, if necessary, the technical manner in which this boundary and ALTA survey has been prepared, as he was and our boots on the ground during the field work and knows their property better than anyone else. If there are any unanswered questions regarding the pending application, we will need to request that this matter be continued until your January meeting, as Mr. Murray had a last-minute issue come up this evening that prevents him from his appearance. We believe, however, that this is a rather straightforward review based upon the submission before you. Thank you.
Thank you. So just to clarify, from my understanding, so there's a proposed subdivision of 6 houses or so. But either way, we're talking nearly 700 feet away from any wetlands or watercourse. So is this something that...
Why did this have to come before?
I'm assuming it's more administrative because the property as a whole has watercourses on them, but they're branching off this. So
Okay.
But because we're
if this
tight,
was a standalone, we wouldn't be
Right.
looking at this at all. So
because we're involved in asking for grant money from DEEP, this is all tied up that we cannot make all these changes without going through this process. So, but once the DEEP submits our grant to us, we now have a process of dividing up the land as proposed, because the original intent when the land was purchased was as the 6.7 acres was going to be split, and the remaining 123 acres will become part of the East Lyme Land Trust, which it has become. We now own that 123 acres.
So there's no financial issue? Because I think I read today there was a financial issue about whether the other property that you had used As a financial
Well,
backing?
we have Plan A and Plan A. Plan A right now is we've been trying to work with the town in order to, we want to sell that property to the town, and we want to sell Osagachi Hills. We own 7 lots within Osagachi Hills, which we are allowed to sell. We want the town to buy that property. So it's all incomplete, one management. With regards to our property, we believe that the town is in a much better position to maintain that property with their facilities. The East Lyme Land Trust does not have a widespread source of manpower to trim, but is a precious piece of land to the point that if you're not familiar with the history, we have the deeds from the King of England granting the money, granting the land to the family, and through the years it's been in the same family. This land was never surveyed. We were surprised to find out. So we had to redo do a survey, and we found there was a difference between what the town records had versus what the survey resulted. So we had them change some numbers by 10 acres or such to make that. But to answer your question specifically, our goal is to have the town work with the town in purchasing Hathaway property and Osagachi Hills for the preservation of the land within the town.
So, if I may, it sounds to me like because there are no inland waterways on this 6 point whatever acres, the best you can get from this group is a letter saying that you don't need a permit from us because there are no waterways on this land.
Exactly.
Yeah, we can determine that it's a non-regulated activity.
Yeah.
And this
Permit
map in
required.
front of you, if I could just hold it up a little bit. That yellow line represents the distance between the waterway and how many feet there is between any source of the wetlands versus our property.
Do I hear a motion from anybody? Any more discussion?
Can I just ask a question?
Yeah.
Just a clarifying question? So you're saying that you want the town to purchase both the Hathaway property and Osagachi Hills from the East Lyme Land Trust?
We are working with them slowly.
That's your,
We are working with them slowly.
got it. Thank you.
It's our goal. We would like to have them do that. They have more access not only to manpower for taking care of the property, but they have more access to grant money for the purchase of the property. And that would pay off our mortgage that we have on the property.
So what are we making a motion to do?
Wait, sorry if I just kind of Phyllis to ask a
Well,
question.
I just, Gary might be able to provide more input. I mean, are we making a decision tonight, or can we wait
Yeah,
until January?
I did discuss with Gary prior to the meeting, and the only thing that we're being asked of today is determining if this specific application would require our review,
Right.
the 6.7 acres that could be potentially subdivided 700 feet away from wetlands or watercourses. That's the only thing we're determining.
Okay.
So we should have a motion then that says that this activity as submitted is a non-regulated activity for this committee.
And does not require a permit.
Right.
Yep.
Right.
Is that an official motion?
Do I have to say that again?
Yeah, it sounded good.
Yeah.
That's perfect, Greg.
Not a motion.
Okay. I move that we report that this application is a non-regulated activity and does not require a permit from the Inland Waterways Agency. Just like being at home, I have to say everything twice.
I'll second that.
Sue, in that motion, is it clear that that it's related to the 6.7 acre subdivision, that application? We
Yeah,
could-
I mean, usually when I make a motion,
Do you-
when I have to, I kind of take the language from the actual agenda item and then go from there.
Yeah, so I want to make sure we're specific.
Yeah.
We're just talking about this one
Yep.
6.7 acre.
You
Okay.
want to probably clarify what part of that property, the larger property is, so people understand.
So that's on your agenda item, and then,
Yes.
find in there where you can put that whatever it was.
6.7
Seven.
acre.
Yeah.
So it's all in the, yeah, that's fine.
Okay,
We trust you.
perfect. Okay.
Does he have to say it again?
I'm good.
Okay.
Okay.
Make you say it a third time.
It never comes out the same twice, so if you want to keep saying it, I can keep saying it.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, that's everybody? All right, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, moving on, Chairman's report. I have nothing to report. I know you, Sam, are working with Ally on potential regulation updates, and we'll discuss that at some point. Okay. It's the only thing on my radar. So, inland wetlands agent report? Anything to note?
Nothing of note, nothing new.
Okay.
So there's been no applications approved? Nothing's
No,
come in?
actually. We rejected one for 14 Francis Lane. That was a while ago. I think they're just going to get back to us on that soon.
Do you know anything about the enforcement on 23 Overbrook?
Yeah, so they sent their application in. All we have to do is go out and make sure that the work that's done matches the site plan, and then we'll approve it.
Okay. Yeah, so I mean, I just see it from a distance that looks like there's still fencing up there now. So I'm sure that when you go check out, you'll make sure everything is stabilized on the property and that there's going to be no runoff.
Yeah, that's all shown on the site plan, so.
Okay.
Has there been any follow-up on the Crescent Beach Pond situation?
Nothing, they've gotten started on it. They've contacted a few different lake management companies, and they filled out a grant application. It was due December 1st. I'm assuming they got it in. They said they were going to get it in. I haven't heard from them about that since. The only thing that we're really doing is just kind of monitoring any future grant applications.
Did they actually get hold of the landowners and form an association of some sort?
Not that I know of. I know, same people are still working on it. If they got hold of the landowners or not yet.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you.
So, on that note, would anybody like to make a motion to adjourn?
I'll make a motion that we adjourn. Opposed?
Do I hear a second?
A second.
Great, thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
Ooh, this is nice.
Wow.
Merry Christmas, happy holidays.
Merry Christmas.
See you next year.